The O'Reilly Factor, the #1 cable news show for 15 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Continuing now with Donald Trump. As you may know, he said that he saw thousands of Muslims in New Jersey celebrating after the 9/11 attack. We investigated and came up with a very interesting report from WCBS TV 5 days after 9/11.
Is another apartment building, one that investigators told me, quote, is swarming with suspects. Suspects who I'm told were cheering on the roof when they saw the plane slam into the Trade Center. Now, police were called to the building by other neighbors and found 8 men celebrating, 6 of them tenants in the building. The FBI and other terrorist task force agencies then arrived, and the older investigators on the task force recalled that they had been to this building before, 8 years ago, when the first World Trade Center attack led them to Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman, whose Jersey City mosque lies between the 2 buildings getting attention today.
Now, I played that report for Mr. Trump yesterday while telling him we could find no other videotape germane to the issue. So no videotape about, thousands of people celebrating doesn't exist. And we really looked everywhere. I mean, it's just not there. But there were people celebrating. Mayor Giuliani confirms in New York it happened. Mr. Guzman confirms in Jersey it happened. So does the Jersey State Police. So you were wrong by saying thousands, but it did happen. What say you?
Well, I don't know that I'm wrong, Bill. This just came out from Breitbart. I mean, literally, it just came out. Trump vindicated, 100% vindicated. And this literally, I'm just seeing it now. So I don't know that I'm wrong. There are a lot of people. We don't have cell phones today with the cameras on them. I mean, if we did, I think you'd see something a lot different. You look at what happened recently, a week ago, with the soccer game, where they had a minute of silence for the people that were just absolutely... It was horrible what happened in Paris, and they had honoring those people, a minute of silence, and you heard shouts from the Muslim world at the game that were horrendous. The players were embarrassed. The coaches were embarrassed.
Do you remember what country that was?
Excuse me?
Do you remember what country that was?
It was a different country.
It was Turkey.
That was a different country. But I'm just saying.
Okay.
It was Turkey. I'm just saying, there's great hatred out there. There's tremendous hatred out there.
Nobody's disputing that.
People aren't acknowledging it.
Where you get into trouble, with all due respect, of course, is what you give a speech and you say things like, I saw thousands, and there weren't thousands. Now,
but you don't know that there weren't, Bill. Bill, you don't know what there were.
I was here, I was reporting, and believe me, if there were thousands, that would have been reported. But
this
what I'm trying to get
says they were swarming. Bill, this article says they were swarming all over the place. Right. So I don't know what that means, but it means a lot of people.
There were some people, not thousands. Now, but what I want to get at is this. You're giving a speech tonight in Virginia.
Bill, you don't know that.
I'm pretty confident.
All right, you're pretty sure.
Right?
You're pretty sure. You don't know that,
and
Bill.
You know that
this
I'm always right.
Swarming all over New Jersey.
I'm always right. So, take it to the bank.
Okay.
All right. So you go into Virginia and you give a speech tonight, okay? Do you have that speech printed out, or is it an ad-lib speech?
Well, it would be so much easier to just read off a teleprompter like our president does, where he reads a teleprompter because he can't do anything else. I like to not do that. I have thousands of people. The other night we had 15,000 people. We had 12,000 people.
Right.
I like to do extemporaneous. Right? You know why? Right. It's more exciting.
And it's more.
And you know the other thing about it?
But you get into trouble.
The other thing about I can talk about current events. I can talk about things that took place 2 hours ago. I can talk about a soccer game if it was played and people were screaming horrible things, and it took place an hour before I go up. And frankly, it's much more exciting to speak for the people, for everybody, even for me. But
I understand
that. To do that, you need an extraordinary memory, and you need lots of ability to be able to speak in front of 20,000 people without a speech.
And you have that.
I think it's much better.
But here's what happens. Sometimes when you're up there, you get overly excited and you're speaking extemporaneously, and then you say things as anybody would, because the crowd is cheering and everything's going wild, that you don't know to be true, but you believe to be true, but you don't know it. So that's the risk as a president, all right? When you're out there as a man who wants the most powerful position in the world, you got to kind of be careful in those speeches, because that's what gets you in trouble. Do you get my point?
I would love to read speeches off of a teleprompter. It is so easy to do. I would even love to read speeches, period. But you know what? You don't get the same excitement. You don't get the same feeling. And I haven't made very many mistakes, that I can tell you. You know, when I announced and when I talked about illegal immigration, all of a sudden everyone, I mean, the world went crazy and thought it was terrible. 4 weeks later, I was #1 in the polls because everyone realized I was right. In fact, it was about 1 week later. But I was #1 in the polls, and now I'm #1 in every single poll. A big one, you'll hate to hear this, but a big one's coming out, CNN tomorrow. I don't know how it's going to be, but I look forward to that one. But we're #1 in every poll, including the Fox poll. Very important.
But I'm just saying that
and we beat Hillary. By the way, Bill, and we beat Hillary head to head.
And I'm sure she's thrilled for that. With responsibility,
she's thrilled.
Okay, with the responsibility that you're seeking comes personal responsibility. And when you say something, you got to be pretty damn well sure that it's accurate and it's not hyperbole. That's the point I'm trying to make, and I'm sure you understand. But
I've had very few complaints, Bill. I've had very few complaints, and we get the biggest crowds by many, many times, and we get far bigger crowds than anybody else.
That's because you're so charismatic.
We have a great, you know what? We have a great time with a tough subject because there's not a lot of good news happening with the United States. You understand that better than anybody. So we have a great time, as good a time as you can have, with subject matter that's not so pleasant.
Always very fascinating to talk with you, Donald, and we always appreciate your time. Thank you very much. In a moment, Newt Gingrich will analyze whether Mr. Trump will gain from the California terror attack. Moments away.